I've been keeping an eye on a game for quite a while, actually. It's from the Embark developers, the same people who made the finals. And finally, good news is they're doing a larger public playtest from October 24th to October 27th. Now, this game is going to be on console and PC. This current upcoming playtest is PC only, but there'll be further playtests for console in the near future. And the game is going to release early 2025. Now, if you've played the finals or even kept an eye on like the finals updates and its development over time, then you'll know that the Embark dev team are really awesome people. They are a bunch of industry veterans, some coming from Battlefield, and they've got a lot of experience when it comes to making games. And more importantly, they really care about getting game dev right. And that's really clear when it comes to the finals because they've made some bad balance changes in the past, but they're very quick to listen to community feedback and are very quick to put out balance changes and updates. The amount of changes that the finals has received over its launch when it comes to balancing different elements of the game is ridiculous, and they are so quick on it as well. So I'm really excited to see what they do with their new game, which is called Arc Raiders. Now, we've all seen so many different games out there recently, so many games launch and kind of flop straight out of the gate, mostly because game devs are trying to make games that appeal to the masses, that will bring them as much money as possible, and then fail as soon as they get out the gate because the game they've made doesn't really appeal to what gamers really want. It's what the devs think gamers want, and somewhere along the way, that whole thing gets lost in translation. But I really do strongly believe Embark's a really good dev team that knows how to make good games for gamers and not for investors. So that's why I'm excited about Arc Raiders. And also, it fits into a category of games that I really like, but I also feel like has had some blunders in past years. It's the PvPvE survival genre. Now, they've specifically called this a PvPvE survival game and not an extraction game. I think they kind of want to separate themselves from the word extraction, because when anyone mentions PvPvE extraction shooter, everyone's like, oh, not another one, which is quite interesting because I don't think there's ever been a good PvPvE extraction game out there ever. Like, everyone that ever tries to make one just does a bad job at it. DMZ was kind of okay, but then they cancelled it. Battlefield 2042 was supposed to have one mode, and it was terrible because it was really badly developed and just basically got closed down. And then we have Escape from Tarkov, Arena Breakout Infinite. Both games are okay, but have their flaws. There's never been a good one. So I wouldn't mind them calling this a PvPvE extraction shooter, because I think these devs, if any devs, could make a good game out of this genre. They managed to make the final something fresh, unique, and exciting, despite it being in the arena shooter genre, which has been so oversaturated over the years. So I do believe they could do a good job here. But this game isn't specifically just a PvPvE extraction game. There's a lot more going on to it. So I want to kind of share some information that recently came out at a press conference, investor call thing by Nexon, which is the publishers of Embark's games, which gives into a bit more detail about what this game actually is. We've also got some tiny little snippets of gameplay now, which is great. They've managed to keep very closed doors on this game. Not really any gameplays leaked out there, despite there being a few tests here and there already. So this game is, well, it was actually first going to be a co-op survival shooter game, and then they realized it was missing something, so they brought in the PvP element later on in development. So it is now a PvPvE game. And you go into this world, which is set a few hundred years in the future, and you loot, scavenge, take out these weird arc robot things, and engage in PvE elements and quests and looting. And there's also potential for PvP. So I think the best way to kind of visualize what this game is going to be is if you took the survival and looting elements of a game like, say, DayZ, you took the looter shooter elements and progression and storyline and questing of a game like Destiny, and then you also brought in PvP as well. So You go into this world and you may have a specific mission or quest to follow that may be your main focus, but as you go, you may find some loot, you may scavenge specific items that you're looking for, you may find ways to upgrade the current kit you've got, and you may along the way find other players that you can choose to engage in PvP with. Now, like other extraction games, it does seem like there is a risk. And if you die, you may lose something. You may lose all of the gear on you, or you may lose some items that you've had. And it seems important that you need to extract or leave the world and go back to the main hub area to be able to sort of make sure you get whatever items or whatever you've collected back. And if you don't successfully extract, you're going to lose that stuff. So it does kind of feel more like an extraction shooter, but they kind of really want to hold on to that word survival for some interesting reason. Now, unlike other extraction games which kind of lack on the progression outside of just building up a big inventory of loot and items, it seems Embark is trying to make a game that gives you a sense of progression even when you do die. So even though you may die and lose some stuff, you can still build up your character and progress through different quests, and you go back to this main hub area where you can actually upgrade your home and put more upgrades into your character, or your raider is what they're calling it. So you can have more chance to upgrade the abilities or equipment or loadout or whatever they do. We don't even know if there are abilities. We don't know if there's gadgets. We don't really know exactly what there is to equip yourself with. But as you play and progress, you can build up your character and progress through quests and make your home look nicer. And I don't know if there'll be any gameplay elements to that, but there's a bit more like substance there, it seems, when it comes to the place you extract to, which is this central hub area, which kind of makes me feel similar to the hub that you have in Destiny. So, you know, you have this hub area where you can do potentially trading with vendors and starting quest lines and managing all your loot and inventory stuff. Then you go into the world and you fight PvE, PvP, do quests, and then you have to try and extract alive. So yeah, that's why I feel like this is like this nice blend of, say, Destiny, DayZ, and other extraction shooters. The devs were very clear in their investor call, or the Nexon investor call, that they wanted to make a game that had kind of similar elements where there is risk, but there's reward, but it's balanced well. And I think that's where a lot of extraction shooters go really wrong. Either it's way too frustrating because when you die, you lose all of your hard-earned gear, or it's not frustrating enough. There's not enough risk involved. For example, in a game like DMZ or many other extraction shooters releasing recently that are trying to like appeal to the casual audience, you don't really have any risk of dying. You know, if you die, you don't really lose anything, which I think is kind of on the opposite side of things. You want to find a nice balance for risk and reward, and I think maybe the Embark devs are going to do a good job at it. So far, there's just so much about this game that's still kind of held in mystery, but it seems like they're building quite an awesome world here, and I do think these devs are pretty talented at making fun, enjoyable games. And when it comes to the setting and lore of this game, they are doing a world a few hundred years in the future. These robots have taken over, and it seems kind of along the lines of sort of like a survival post-apocalyptic deal. And the gameplay clips that we've seen, sort of this like darker theme and feel to it, which kind of maybe adds to the horror and suspense of fighting other players and PvEing. I don't know how it will be, but it's not like a super cartoony game, but it's not like your typical military sim style game that most extraction shooter games go for. It is its own thing with its own unique art style, but perhaps leaning more towards the grittier side of things. So it's going to be interesting how that looks and feels when we play it. But yeah, I mean, you can see the gameplay itself. The graphics looking pretty good. When it comes to actual gameplay mechanics, have no idea. We've seen some images of third-person gameplay, so it looks like, yes, it's a third-person shooter. It seems like you have a health bar and shield bars and a weapon quick slots and all that typical stuff. And looting seems to be done through this arc tool, which seems to be like kind of a futuristic pickaxe. And besides that, there's so much unknown about this game. This game will have a price tag as well. It's not going to be free to play. So we'll have to see how that develops and what that means for like future content for the game. But with a game that has risk, I think that having a price tag, especially when there's PvP involved, could be important, because perhaps it could help with solving cheaters. There's obviously a big problem with games these days. Personally, I'm really excited for this game, Arc Raiders, and I'm going to be jumping into the playtest to try it this weekend. You can also try it yourself. I'll put a link in the description. Not everyone will get access, but it seems like this is going to be the largest public playtest they're doing. Unfortunately, we cannot post any gameplay of it, but I have to stay tuned, and hopefully this game will turn out to be something fun. Let me know, are you interested in a new PvE game if they do it right? I still feel like this genre is left untapped, and there's not been a dev that's really made a good game for the genre, and maybe this one will be it. I don't know. What do you think? Let me know, and I see you in the comments. Cheerio!